But we're going to start with the latest developments in football's battle against online hate, and the sports governing bodies, including the FA, the Premier League and the EFL, have sent an open letter to Facebook and Twitter calling on them to take stronger action to end the abuse on their platforms. Well, I'm joined by our chief reporter, Brian Swanson, for more on this. Good to see you again, Brian. Just how significant is this?
Well, John, this is a show of force from the most important bodies in English football. They, like everybody else, have been disgusted by what they've seen online and they want change. 8 organisations have come together to demand that more action is taken from these two, the Facebook and Twitter bosses Mark Zuckerberg and Twitter chief exec Jack Dorsey. They say that the platforms have become a haven for abuse and they're calling on 4 clear actions. Now, here's a reminder of what the game wants to see right now. They want messages and posts to be filtered and blocked before being sent or posted if they contain racist or discriminatory material. They should operate robust, transparent and swift measures to take down abusive material if it does get into circulation. They say all users should be subject to an improved verification process that, only if required by law enforcement, allows for accurate identification of the person behind the account. Steps should also be taken to stop a user that has sent previously from re-registering an account. The key point there is that if you have sent abuse in the past, they want measures to be put in place that prevents that individual from simply creating another account and doing it again.
Yeah, so Brian, how key is this issue of anonymity?
It's central to absolutely everything. The key point and the final point raised in the open letter today is this. They say that your platforms should actively and expeditiously assist the investigating authorities in identifying the originators of illegal discriminatory material. Now, having gone through the letter, John, and read the letter in depth, for me this was the standout quote, what we've got here on our video wall. The standout quote that says, "We cannot succeed until you change the ability of offenders to remain anonymous." So the key point there is that English football, along with everyone else, is saying that so long as these accounts are anonymous, then there's very, very little that can be done. This is all about accountability. If you post something that's illegal, law enforcement should be able to easily identify you so that you're then acted upon accordingly. Now, Kick It Out signed the open letter and their chair told us this lunchtime that he agrees anonymity should be taken away.
Anonymity is not a absolute right, like freedom of speech. It's qualified, and when you do something that you send abuse, you breach the terms of service, you commit something that arguably is a crime, then that your right is sort of qualified away, and that's the point at which information about your identity should be more transparently shared, and they need the systems to ensure that happens.
So plenty of people within the game asking what can be done. Could, for instance, there be a database held by each government around the world where users must register to use an account? But this is a complex issue. It's a global issue. Here's a reminder of what one Facebook executive told our reporter Rebecca Williams on the issue of anonymity.
When it comes to identification, I'm Zimbabwean, for a little bit of background. So I didn't have an ID until I was about 18, 19, and a passport soon after that when I eventually could leave to go to university. And that's because there's a certain set amount of privilege that comes with being able to access identification back home. And that's just in Zimbabwe. When you think about the UK and the US and access to identifications, I think more often than not, it's women of color who don't have access to those that sort of government paperwork. So if we were to suddenly create rules that would stop those people because you didn't have government identification from being on the platform, we would disproportionately affect not just women of color in large economies, but people of color generally around the world.
So there are global complexities as we look to the future that need to be overcome, Brian. But bringing it right up to date, Swansea midfielder Yandanda was the latest to be racially abused online last night. Now, Instagram announced yesterday that they will ban people who send abusive messages. Do we know if any action has been taken following that specific incident last night?
Well, inquiries are ongoing this afternoon. This took place on social media after their FA Cup tie against Manchester City. Swansea City, of called on social media companies to go above and beyond to stamp out this abhorrent level of behaviour. We have asked what action has been taken on social media. We will bring you that response as we get it throughout the day here on Sky Sports News. Danda posted on Twitter saying, "How can this still be happening in 2021? I'm so proud of who I am representing Asians. More has to be done," with the hashtag No to Racism. Manchester City say that they were appalled to hear of the abuse. They will cooperate with Swansea and South Wales Police in their investigation. Now, Sanjay Bandari also spoke about how technology should be used.
So much of it is down to the technology and the sort of culture that is created on social media. And the social media companies are in the best position to have an impact. They have the financial resources, they have the technology, and they have the people, and they need to make sure that resources are allocated consistently to solve this problem and have some determination to solve this problem.
Well, John, let's see how Facebook and Twitter respond to this request from English football. Their message to Twitter and Facebook today is clear. Use the power of your social media systems to bring this abuse to an end.
OK. For now, Brian, thanks very much. Well, Newcastle head coach Steve Bruce has also today revealed that he received recent death threats online. Now, Bruce is speaking after referee Mike Dean was the target of similar threats.
Social media now is a really, really powerful weapon for everybody concerned. For me, these big companies have got to police it better. The abuse that I've had, that death threats, all this sort of stuff. And when I see a referee wanting to come away from it because he makes a mistake, and people threatening them with his life and all the rest of it, it's just absolutely obscene and totally ridiculous. And they need to clamp down on it, and they need to police it better, and we need to stop it basically, because if there are vulnerable people out there, then it's absolutely, in my opinion, vile, some of it, and we have to stop it.
Well, Labour MP Shi Onwurah is the shadow digital culture, media and sport minister. Now, she says the government should introduce legislation that forces companies like Facebook and Twitter to take action when people are abused on social media.
If somebody on the street makes a racist comment, then that can be reported, they can be identified. Racism, hate crime is illegal. But what these social media companies do, and this is where it is their responsibility, is they amplify it, they distribute it, they send it all over, all over the world, and they send it to the player in question. They make it much more visible. And what we need to see, and as I said, it's no surprise that this is happening. Facebook has been aware of this. They must have been aware of this. They have some of the greatest resources of any organization on the planet. So what we need to see is actual action rather than promises. And we need to see legal responsibility and accountability from the platforms for what is happening online. And we need the government to bring it. It's quite simple. We need the government to put in place the legislation that does that. We've been promised legislation on online safety for, I've lost track, for years now, and we still haven't even got a date for when it's going to come. The Secretary of State Oliver Dowding says, that he doesn't like it, that it's wrong. He seems to forget that he has the power to stop this, or to help it be stopped, by bringing forward the legislation that puts the accountability for the distribution of this racism with the platforms and enables the person responsible to be identified and to have measures taken against them, because the platforms don't always cooperate with the police as it is.
Well, we at Sky Sports are wholly committed to removing online hate from our platforms. So if you see a reply to a Sky Sports post and or content with an expression of hate, please copy the URL that you just saw there, or screen grab it and send it to againstonlinehate@skysports.com. That's the address that you just saw on your screen, againstonlinehate@skysports.com.